I once had this professor who's from MIT, and in the MIT lab and technology lab. What I asked him a question, is a very interesting question to me, and I asked him, why is it that people don't learn everything at one time? And his explanation was kind of one of those guru explanation that it seems simple, but it dawned on me it was complex, but at the same time it's a reality. So he says, if you have steps 1 to 10 that you provide to a training organization or to a training workshop or to your worker, at one point in time, they will only pick up 1, 4, 9, or 10. They will not remember and learn all the 1 to 10. Why? Because the learner or the worker at one point in time is at a certain condition in his life, in his mind, at work, that's only being able to receive openly this information that they picked. Meaning to say, his work might have changed, the nature of urgency of something has changed, his life condition may have changed, the nature of his relationship with his boss and peer has changed, the equipment have changed. So at one point in time, he only remembers a certain context that's important to him. And that context is constantly changing day in and day out in the job. So, one thing of my biggest takeaway from this conversation for them is this. Context is actually carried by the learner and the worker. It is not us, the designer, who creates the context. The context is in the minds of the learner, the worker, while doing work. So, why microlearning is valuable in this process? Because if you develop each one of these steps into very independent units, highly useful, the learner, the worker, whenever the context changes, can go quickly to every one of the steps at any one point in time that is important to them. If you have this bounded into a link together and they have to go to number 5, number 7 before to go to number 9, it doesn't work because you lose and they lose their context. So a big learning for me is that context is set by the worker, and there's no one point in time that that context is permanent. It's changing every day based on the nature of work. So when we prepare content and when we focus it to microlearning, we better understand that it has to be so useful, because when he shifts or when she shifts his or her content, that content must be valuable, quickly accessible, and quickly useful within the context of that moment.